This happened 2 years ago, and it still keeps me up at night. What I thought would be a fun cafe experience turned into something much stranger, something I still can't fully explain. This is the story of how I fell in love with someone who wasn't real. Or maybe, just maybe, she was. Tokyo, a city where neon lights blur the lines between fantasy and truth. It's a place where anything feels possible. But some things are too good to be true. When I landed in Tokyo, I was ready to dive into a world I'd dreamed about for years. My travel schedule was packed: temples, museums, street food, and of course, a day in Akihabara, Tokyo's otaku paradise. The first few days were incredible. I stood at the middle of Shibuya Crossing, surrounded by a sea of people moving like clockwork. I ate sushi that practically melted in my mouth at Tsukuji Market. I marveled at Tokyo Tower from Zojoji Temple, but something about Akihabara felt different. Even before I stepped foot there. The moment I arrived, I felt off. The streets were lined with flashing billboards, giant anime characters plastered on every corner, and crowds of people in cosplay. As I was an anime fan, it felt like stepping into a dream or a hallucination. I wandered aimlessly, taking in the chaos. Shops selling vintage video games, endless rows of anime figurines, and arcades buzzing with the sound of claw machines and laughter. Then, I saw the sign of a famous anime cafe. An anime-themed cafe? Why not? I thought it would be a fun, interesting way to end the day. Inside, the atmosphere was surreal. The walls were covered in holographic images of iconic anime scenes. The lighting was soft and otherworldly, and the air was filled with a faint floral perfume. Waitresses floated from table to table, each dressed as a different character. And that's when I saw her. She walked out from behind a curtain, wearing the exact outfit of Aiko, my favorite anime. Her silver wig glowed under the lights, her eyes sparkled with mischief, and her smile was perfect. When she approached my table, I couldn't breathe. "Welcome, master," she said in a voice that matched Aiko's perfectly. "I've been waiting for you." I should have laughed it off. I should have reminded myself this was just a theme cafe, just an act. But instead I said, "Aiko, is it really you?" She tilted her head, her smile widening. "Of course, master. Who else would I be?" That first night was magical. She stayed by my table longer than she did with anyone else, chatting with me like we were old friends. She called me master in that soft melodic tone, just like Aiko in the anime. I told her about my trip to Japan, and she listened intently as if she genuinely cared. When I left, she waved and said, "Come back tomorrow, master. I'll be waiting." The next day I returned to that magical place. This time I brought her a small gift, a keychain of Aiko I'd found at a nearby shop. Her eyes lit up when I gave it to her. "For me?" she asked, clutching it to her chest. "Thank you, master. I'll treasure it forever." Her reaction sent a jolt of warmth through me. I knew it was all part of the act, but in that moment, it felt real. She felt real. And I did. That night, I stayed longer. I told her about my favorite episode, how much Aiko's character had meant to me growing up, how her story had helped me through some tough times. "You're so kind, master," she said softly, her eyes shimmering with something I couldn't quite place. "I wish I could always stay by your side." It wasn't just her words, it was the way she looked at me, the way she leaned in as if we were the only two people in the room. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to her, something beyond the costume and the script. The third night, something changed. As I walked to the cafe, the streets of Akihabara seemed different. The neon lights felt too bright, the noise too loud. Faces blurred as I passed them, and the air felt heavy, almost electric. When I stepped into the cafe, it was like entering another dimension. The lights seemed softer, the holograms more vivid. And there she was, waiting for me at my usual table, her smile brighter than ever. "Master," she said, holding out her hand. "I've been waiting all day." This time I didn't just talk. I asked her questions. Real questions. "Do you ever wish you could leave this place?" I asked. She hesitated, her smile faltering for the briefest moment. "Sometimes," she said. "But I'm happiest when I'm here. With you." My heart raced. Was this still an act? Or was she trying to tell me something? That night, I stayed until closing. As I left, she grabbed my hand and whispered, "Don't forget me, master." The next night, I brought her a small bouquet of flowers. But before I could give them to her, the door to the cafe burst open. A man stormed in, a tall guy in his late 20s, wearing a leather jacket and an expression that could kill. "Mika," he said, his voice sharp. I froze. "Aiko." Mika looked up, her eyes wide with panic. "I'm working," she whispered. "Working?" he snapped. "You mean playing pretend for this guy?" He pointed at me, his eyes blazing. "Do you even know who she is?" I started, but my words died in my throat. "She's my girlfriend," he said, stepping closer to me. "And you've been leaving her gifts, treating her like she's some cartoon character. What the hell is wrong with you?" Mika tried to intervene, her voice shaking. "Please, just stop. You're embarrassing me." "Embarrassing you?" he shouted. "You're the one leading him on." The room spun. I looked at her, searching for an explanation, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "I think you should leave," the man said, his voice cold. I stumbled out of the cafe, the bouquet still clutched in my hand. The streets of Akihabara were a blur of lights and noise. My chest ached, my mind racing with questions. Was any of it real? Had I been imagining things? That night I couldn't sleep. Every word, every smile, every touch replayed in my mind. Had she been acting the whole time? Or had there been a moment, even just one, when she'd been genuine? The next morning I packed my bags and left Tokyo. I spent the rest of my trip far from the neon chaos of Akihabara. In Kyoto, I found peace among the bamboo groves and ancient temples. In Nara, I laughed as deer nudged me for treats. In Hiroshima, I stood in silence at the Peace Memorial, reminded of life's fragility. But I couldn't stop thinking about her, about Mika, about Aiko. Looking back, I realized I wasn't in love with Mika, or even with Aiko. I was in love with the idea of her, the fantasy she represented. In Akihabara, it was easy to lose myself in that dream, to believe in a world where characters could come to life. But life isn't an anime. People aren't characters. And love, real love, isn't about perfection or fantasy. It's about seeing someone for who they truly are. I still think about Mika sometimes. I wonder if she's still working at that cafe, still bringing people's favorite characters to life. And I hope, wherever she is, she's happy. As for me, I've learned to appreciate the line between fantasy and reality, because while dreams are beautiful, it's the real world that holds the most surprising, heart-wrenching, and unforgettable stories. Tokyo taught me that dreams and reality often collide in unexpected ways. If you ever find yourself in Akihabara, be careful. It's a place where the lines blur, where fantasy feels real. If you like this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to share your story, you can send an email on travelplanner1noir@gmail.com, and I will make your story come to life. See you in the next video.